Hi, my name is Carrie White. I'm an SIU graduate student. This is Target 1, and it's on Goldfish Training using positive reinforcement to shape the behavior as well as negative reinforcement for an alternative operant behavior. The subject was a calico goldfish. There were two tanks used in this study. The first tank was the habitat where he would stay, so that had gravel and other plants and necessities that he would need. And the second tank was a training tank. This training tank was much smaller. The first tank was 10 gallons. The second tank is only 5 gallons. So the training tank was helpful in that it had less water, it wasn't as deep, and we could take out anything that could be distracting, like the plants and gravel or things that he could hide behind. Also, there is a fish training kit that was purchased through Amazon. This training kit has the tubes that he'll be going through, as well as the feeding wand and other things that can be used during training sessions. And then the spatula was used as well during the negative reinforcement sessions. So during the first couple of days, we collected some baseline data. So I introduced the feeding wand. Originally, I just stuck the feeding wand in to see what he would do. There was no response to the feeding wand. Then I did the same thing with the spatula, just to see what would happen. He did not approach the spatula. He did hide behind the filter, but other than that, there was no interaction with either objects. The next step I did was a preference assessment. So I did a preference assessment to see which type of food would be the most highly preferred reinforcer. Those were frozen pellets, original pellets, there was these special floating pellets, and then flakes. Flakes were the most highly preferred reinforcer. So during the positive reinforcement sessions, the discriminative stimulus was 3 taps on the glass by the location of the fish. It was noted that when I would tap in a different location that wasn't near the fish, it did not get the fish's attention enough. So I made sure that I'm tapping in the location of the fish. The operant behavior that I was trying to shape was to swim through a hoop, and the reinforcement that was used was those fish flakes that were determined during the preference assessment. Here are the successful approximation and the steps that he had to make during the shaping process. So first he had to approach the food once the stick was released. So initially the feeding stick was just put into the water, gained attention, and then food was released. Then eventually he had to move closer to the stick, eventually touching the stick with mouth. Then the stick was placed near hoop. Stick was placed in the middle of the hoop, and then he had to touch the stick with mouth after swimming through the hoop. So here is the video of my little fishy doing it. All right. Okay. Oh, sorry. All right. After we were successful with the shaping process of using the positive reinforcement, we moved on to negative reinforcement. So the spatula was entered into the water. The spatula was then moved in the direction of the fish. So then we did the same steps where successful approximation of the target behavior. So when he started moving away from it, the spatula was removed. The goal was for him to swim to a black dot that was drawn onto the side of the tank. So turned away from spatula, moved half inch away from spatula in the direction of the dot, repeated in step 2 until target is reached, mouth on dot.
Good job.
And that was the extent of how far we got at this time. I think with additional time, we would have had a little bit more success. But there were limitations. The positive reinforcement limitation was the training tank. We definitely needed the training tank. The original tank that he was in was just too big. And then there was also an adjustment time. We needed to give a little bit more time for him while he was in the training tank. Negative reinforcement limitations with time. We just did not have enough time. And also the size of the tank. If the tank was a little bit smaller, I think it would have been a little bit easier to get him to move to that dot. So the results showed that during the shaping approximations, there was success in the positive reinforcement. So towards trial 11 and 12, you see that he made it all the way to step 6. So that was swimming through the hoop with the stick behind the hoop. And then with the negative reinforcement, again, I think with a little bit more time, we would have seen more success. But when the spatula was entered into the water, he would move in the direction of the dot. Thank you very much.